Fun. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's WitchyWoo Sunday. Everyone, welcome. This is a free weekly meetup on Zoom and hopefully sometimes in person, where we gather to reconnect, refresh our spirits, commune with like-minded souls, and do whatever work is necessary. No experience is necessary. I want this to be available and free to anyone on or off whatever social network you're connecting with. Um, Today, I wanted to talk about the deities. Many witches, myself included, worship at least one deity and sometimes more. Me personally, I worship two deities from ancient Ireland, Brigid and Lugh. I know other witches who worship gods from all kinds of ancient pantheons, ancient Egypt, India, Germany, Greece. Just about every culture in the world had a pantheon of gods and goddesses who represented gifts and causes which we admire or feel drawn to. Many witches just worship a generic kind of triple goddess, or the moon goddess, or the horned god without a name. Some also worship the Christian God, Jesus Christ. Some others worship none. It's completely up to you. That's the thing about witchcraft in general, is that there are no rules, and there are no set rules about deity worship in witchcraft. Though there are some guidelines that I was taught that I'd like to share. Sometimes you choose the deity, and sometimes the deity chooses you. Um, Either way, it's always a good idea to confirm who you're talking to. Um, and I want to make this a collaborative conversation. I'd love to hear about your deity experiences. So I'd like to make this more of a show and tell of like-minded souls that that come together to, excuse me, compare notes, and less like, I'm the high priestess and I will tell you what it's about, because that's just not witchcraft, not in the way that I believe and practice. I believe that everybody has an important spiritual path to follow, and it's more about helping each other get down that road, up that mountain, um, than it is about being, you know, having some important title that means something. At least to me. Yes, and if you guessed, I am a raging Aquarian. um, so yes, I totally believe in the sanctity of the individual and the beauty and power of everybody's connection to the spirit world, and the um, the ways that we all can learn from each other, because we all have amazing wisdom to share. So I like to call myself fairy godmother morning starfire, because um, uh, only because I've been practicing since 1985. I've been through training from a number of different groups and practices. I've been in eclectic witchcraft groups. I have practiced trained originally in a formal group, and I've also been trained, or have been in an apprenticeship in shamanism, fairy witchcraft, and Druidism. So, and I'm studying Druidism right now. So I'm not coming to you from some high, I know everything place. I'm just coming to you from a place of, I have hopefully interesting information to share, and I really want to empower people to find themselves, and I really think that we evolve as we help each other evolve. The Temple of Babylon offers classes, community events, and social opportunities that are focused on empowerment and support. for anyone who wants to learn more about paganism, witchcraft, and Avalon. Perfect love and perfect trust is always welcome here. And I just want to say welcome and blessed be. So who are the gods and what can they do for us? The gods and goddesses. Um, so there are different kinds of deities and roles that deities play. The one that I think a lot of witches are most familiar with is the triple goddess. But many of deities, gods and goddesses, were considered triples. Triples, there's different kinds of triples too. Some triple deities are triad, a group of three individual gods or goddesses that work together as a triad. And other triple goddesses are like my goddess Brigid. I'm going to be talking to you about Brigid today. Brigid is a triple goddess who's one goddess with three different faces. So we might encounter her and experience her energy with different slices, different faces. There's no right way to encounter deities. There's no one kind of deity. There's so many that just as varied as people. There are deities of justice, deities of healing, deities of the sun and moon and the seasons, deities of death and the underworld, deities of the hunt, warrior deities, deities of love and marriage, deities of divination and prophecy. And I am of the opinion that they are all, in one way or another, here to help us in the ways that we need them. And I think it really, truly is much more about what we need, who we call in our moments of need. They are here to help us. So one thing I wanted to start with, though, is to say, to talk a little bit about energy frequencies. So I think of the energy of our spirits being on a spectrum, just like the color spectrum, as a range between the lowest frequency, which if it were a scale from 0 to 100, 0 would be extreme sadness, like suicide, to the highest frequency, which I feel is like a deity level of happiness and fulfillment, contentment, alignment with being deity. And most of us are somewhere in between 0 and 100 on a day-to-day basis. I believe that getting your spirit to vibrate at a higher frequency is tantamount to you connecting to different kinds of deities. So deities are on that spectrum as well. I believe some deities are at such a high frequency that to connect to them, your spirit needs to be vibrating at a similarly high frequency for you to be able to connect to them. Some of them don't, like Brigid, for example. Brigid, my goddess, is able to connect to everyone at whatever frequency you're at, because she, so another goddess that a lot of people are aware of is Kuan Yin, who's a goddess of healing and compassion. And both of these goddesses of healing are more available when our frequencies are lower, because they want to help us heal and bring our energy frequency higher, if that makes sense. So getting your spirit to vibrate at a higher frequency is something I believe that you can do intentionally, and sometimes just happens. So ways to do it intentionally are meditate, exercise, bathe in salt water, sage yourself, burn incense that brings higher frequencies. My favorite is frankincense and myrrh, just for general uplifting my frequency level. And there are many others. So I have, for example, I have incense that is specific to a deity. Like I have my Brigid incense that helps me and her vibrate and connect. Also have, just as examples, Pele and Lady of the Lake incense. So when I want to connect to them, burning this incense helps bring my energy frequency closer to theirs. And when we're closer to theirs and we call them and we work with them, we invite them, there's a number of other things we can do. They are the two of us are able to communicate. And sometimes that's just communicating on a real airy-fairy level. What am I trying to say? Like in dreams. You may burn some Pele incense and try and connect with Pele energetically and call her for some fiery help in maybe helping you on your next creative project. And you may connect with her directly. I mean, she may come if you call her and say, "Hey, Paley, help me with this project, I'm stuck." She may come right there. She may come to you in your dreams and give you some advice or whatever. I'm kind of going a little bit off tangent here on a tangent, but I wanted to make the point that incense can help. The sense of smell is our most primal sense. If you think about the other senses, so sight, hearing, taste, all of those senses, except smell, have to go through your brain, and your brain has to interpret what you're looking at or see what you're looking at or hearing or tasting. So your brain has some opportunities to play tricks on you and kind of mess with or add layers to the interpretation of what you're sensing, right? But your sense of smell goes straight from your nose into your brain, and it's said to be the most primal because you're not going through that layer of interpretation, and it can really invoke that animal part of us. Anyway, so the reason that incense helps us or smells help us to raise our energy frequency and meet our deities on an energetic level is because the sense of smell is so primal. Okay, so how do we build a relationship with the deity, and how do we know what deities we want to connect to? So my suggestion is, if you don't have any particular deities that are knocking on your door saying, I'm really interested in working with you, I would suggest meditating on a particular big problem in your life. So maybe it's relationships, maybe it's work, maybe or money, maybe it's health. Whatever big problem is really kicking your butt, meditate on it, bring your frequency as high as you can, and try and ask yourself what kind of deity would be helpful. And so if it's a health issue, maybe it's you injured your knee or something like that. Meditate on the kind of healing deity that would be helpful for knee injuries. And with that, when your vibration, your energy frequency is higher, when by meditating, you bring your energy frequency higher, and your connection to deity is more available. When you put your wish out, you're you're closer to deity. It's more likely to get to the deity level to attract the deity that you need. Um, and so, and things that are really bothering you. I mean, not just annoyance kind of bothering you, but you know, burning problems. I don't know how I'm going to make my rent this month. Kind of problems. Um, your energy frequency is really connected to that problem. And so, if you can bring your frequency up while you're meditating on that problem, you're bringing that whole problem up into the deity realm to attract the right kind of deity help. Prepare yourself to be in sacred space. So, what does that mean? So, some other ways to raise your energy frequency that we talked about: cleanse your body, cleanse your spirit, um, do some saging, um, and these help you release the negative toxins, worries, fears, people or spirits or crap energies for whatever reason are inside your energetic places and bringing you down. Um, Smudge, salt, um, water help you cleanse those out, um, which will release you to vibrate at a higher frequency. And another consideration is pick a location that is sacred. So here, this is my temple. I have absolutely made this a cleansed, sacred space to do this work. But if you don't have a temple or you don't have access to it for whatever reason, you know, you're out at the grocery store and somebody attacks you and you need help and you're not near your altar, I'm sorry, you're not near your temple, um, find a place that is always sacred. So that might be my most favorite place is outdoors under a big tree, always sacred. Um, there's you know plenty of other options, but think about that and be prepared for what kinds of places are nearby you that are accessible for when you need them, and be actively looking for the right location to have conversations with deity and um, read about them. So, you know, so let's go back to the example that you're having a knee issue and you're looking for healing deities. Go take a look at a few and read up on them. Think about who they are and why they might help you. Um, if your knee injury is because you are some kind of athlete, you know, say you're training for the Olympics or something, and you hurt your knee, the kind of healing deity you would choose would be different than if you are an old person like me and you are feeling like your knees going out because you're old, right? I would probably go to somebody like Brigid or Kuan Yin for that kind of healing. If you were, you know, like an athlete looking for healing, you might go for more of like a warrior kind of deity. Um, anyway, just think about it, research. Um, when you do pick one um, that you want to call, I encourage you to set up an altar. And actually, let's just talk for a second about shrines and altars. So, what's the difference between a shrine and an altar? A shrine is typically dedicated to one specific person, deity, um, or something like that, one particular direction. And shrines for people who have died are called memorials. Um, an altar is a sacred space for religious, spiritual purposes, excuse me, like worship, prayer, rituals, or offerings. And an altar can contain multiple shrines. Um, so if I show you real quick my altar, um, switching, oh, come on camera, there we go. You can see um, my altar has 3 shrines. I know this is a little weird, but it's maybe it's also weird. I have my god Lugh here. I have a statue. I have a fresh flower dedicated to him as an offering. I have some of his favorite crystals, which are tangerine, calcite, or citrine. Um, Bloodstone is another one of his favorites, and a candle in his honor. So when I invoke Boo, I will, um, I will, you know, welcome him with some nice words and light a candle to him. And then over here is my statue, my shrine to Brigid, and this is a statue of her 3 faces with an offering of fresh flowers and a candle. Her, if you're familiar with Brigid at all, this is Brigid's cross. She loves amethyst, especially. This is one of my favorite amethysts. I also have an amethyst garden behind me. So anyway, when you're and I'm sorry, the third one is a little shrine to me with a little doll of me, which I made for myself and put on my altar in between the shrines to my 2 deities on a day that I was really down on myself and was having a hard time. And I've left it there because it's cool. It's really cool to feel and see this representation of my 2 favorite deities and me in between them. It just warms my spirit. So that's a little overview of altars. So a couple of quick do's and don'ts. The one that I was taught over and over is be careful when inviting multiple deities at once. So the usual guidance is if you are going to bring multiple deities into a particular ritual, that they be from the same pantheon. Because the reasoning being that not all deities have good relationships, but that really extends to even deities within the same pantheon, doesn't it? The Greek gods were notorious for battling with each other. So as you build relationships with them, build the relationships individually. And then as you work with them, ask if they enjoy working with other deities. And make sure it's okay with them to bring them together. This pairing of Lugh and Brigid is not a usual one. And as a matter of fact, I'm not sure that I've ever met another witch that pairs them together. Not to say that that's wrong or bad or, right or wrong. It's just me. It's what happened with me. I worked with Brigid starting in 1990 when she made herself aware. She came into my spirit on my birthday, which turns out is her special day, February 2nd, which in ancient Ireland was celebrated as Imbolc and has now very recently, like I think it was last year, become a national holiday in Ireland. Yay. Again. to celebrate the goddess Brigid anyway, and Saint Brigid, but we won't go there anyway. But the I I worked with her exclusively from 1990 until the early 2000s. So it was over 10 years where I was just working with Brigid, and Lugh came into my life, and I went, I started working with Lugh separately, and I wasn't so confident about bringing the two together. But as it turns out, oh my freaking God, they are amazing together. Anyway, just be careful. It's kind of like a dinner party, right? You're having a dinner party, make sure the guests are okay with each other first, and avoid some antics during your event. Um, some traditions have a prohibition about setting up a shrine in your bedroom or your bathroom, so research that. Um, the the Asian traditions, especially if you ever research feng shui, have a huge problem with bathrooms. Bathrooms being the dirtiest place in the house, and the place that is the least spiritual. So anyway, um, I also wanted to give you just a quick introduction to Brigid, my lady. So she is a beloved Celtic goddess. Her name means exalted one. And she is, um, she is a triple goddess. She is the patroness of poetry and creativity, healing, and motherhood, childbirth. And she's also the patroness of smithcraft, making swords and knives, and other kind of metal pieces with an anvil. And that one I never quite understood. But as I started working with her, what she told me is that, if you think about Imbolc, in the high point of February, February being the high point of winter, right? If you live in Ireland or Seattle, like where I'm from, and the climates are kind of similar, winter comes, and people have spent their entire summer and fall harvesting every kind of food they can and put it away to be able to survive the winter. It's kind of hard to understand now, but it's also a good metaphor for our lives every day, right? We work to put ourselves in a place of abundance and help us survive. And in the middle of winter, right about February, February comes, and it's kind of the high point of winter, isn't it? You may have run out of food. Your village may be suffering. Little children and the older people are starting to die. Your livestock's probably going to die. There's nothing to eat. There's no berries on bushes, or any kind of plant life really to eat. And the animals are pretty much burrowed in for the winter so they can survive. And so people start to starve, and panic, right? So if you think about that moment in your life, and we've all had at least one, and some of us have had many, but that dark night of the soul, when you reach a point wondering if you're going to survive the night, that things have gotten so bad for you for whatever reason, or things feel so horrible for you that you are afraid you aren't going to make it. You reach that dark night of the soul, and you reach out to spirit, the goddess, help, please. Are we going to make it through? How can we make it through? And Breed's special sacred flame. She is the lady of the sacred flame. Her flame is to bring you back to your reason for living. Why did you come into your life? What is the most important thing that you accomplish in this lifetime? What is keeping you alive? And helping you to reconnect to that spark or create a new spark. Maybe your reason has, for whatever reason, been removed from your life, and you don't feel like you have a reason anymore. Brigid is there to re-spark your reasons and bring you back to what's important. And this is a long lifetime, and we will go through many cycles of that. And when so Breed helps you reconnect to what's important, re-spark your flames, and bring you back to your growth, your fertility, your healing, your creativity, your and the smithcraft thing is the part that I've always kind of puzzled on. But you know, what you're doing, whatever you're spending your lifetime doing, your most important work, whatever that is, you are spending a lot of energy um, to craft your piece, right? To make whatever it is the best that it can be. And maybe it's fashioning a sword, or maybe, like in my case, I'm a technical project manager, and I build technical solutions for people. And to do that, I need to be my best self, right? And I need to bring the best people to my project so that we deliver the best solution. And that's what smithcraft, I think, represents, is once you know what your sword is that you're trying to build, putting um, the right energy into building the best one that you can. So she's really amazing. She's also known as a protectress and a goddess of healing grace. She had a magic cloak that if you were under her cloak, and the ancient Irish would ask to be under her cloak, they would be protected. And when you're in that dark night of the soul and you need protection, boy, do you need Breed. um, so anyway, that's kind of an introduction to her and to me. I think she and I are connected in really powerful ways. Um, I think I honestly believe, and not everybody agrees with me, so don't feel like you have to. But I believe that when your soul decides to reincarnate, that you choose your parents, you choose the location of where you're going to grow up, or the circumstances of growing up, the kinds of lessons you're going to learn in this lifetime. And I also think you choose the date and time that you're born. If you look at my chart, I was born on February 2nd in the middle of a huge planetary alignment. There were 7 planets in alignment in the sky that day. And had I been born like 6 hours later, I think, anyway, there would have been, no, I'm sorry, there were 6 planets in alignment at the moment that I was born. And if I had been born like 6 hours later, there would have been 7 planets. But anyway, um, I chose my astrology, let me put it that way. And um, I was 3 weeks late. I was born very, very late, and babies aren't born 3 weeks late anymore, are they? But anyway, um, and I believe that that's because I really wanted to be born that particular day, and I had to meet Breed. I had to know this. I have no Irish blood at all. I've done my ancestry. I've done my DNA analysis. I have Scottish blood, but I don't have any Irish blood. I don't know why, but I'm so incredibly drawn to everything Irish. But it isn't because of my ancestors and my heritage. So anyway, that's what brought me to Breed. That's why I feel so connected to her, and I hope that's um, inspiring to you. Think about your think about when you were born, the the circumstances of your life, if there are gods and goddesses that maybe had um, reasons to be in your life. And I do think some some deities choose to be with you your entire life, and some deities come and go with needs. Um, so here's another story that I tell a lot is we were carjacked at gunpoint in California um, a long time ago. And I was furious, as you can imagine. I went home and I went to my altar and I picked out a book on goddesses and I just was angrily flipping through, going, who do I need to talk to? And the book came to the Egyptian goddess Maat. And Maat is the goddess of justice, and she's kind of like the Saint Peter at the gates, where she would weigh your soul against the weight of a feather, and if your soul was heavier than a feather, then you weren't allowed access to heaven. You were sent to for more processing. Anyway, um, Maat is the goddess to call when something really seriously wrong, like being carjacked at gunpoint, happens. And you're not supposed to tell Maat what justice looks like. You just call her as respectfully as you can, and make your case. And tell her all the facts that happened. You know, fact, 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 and just say, I want justice. And so that's what I did. I went, put it away, said goodbye to that ritual and thanked Matt and just let it go. 5 days later, the police called me in another county. They caught the guy with my car. We identified him. Long story short, we got our car back in perfect condition and he got 18 years. How often do carjackers in California get 18 years? Even when they're caught dead to rights? Never. That was Matt. That was how Matt came into my life, and she's been really amazing. But I don't just call her for every little, whiny, I want justice because someone pissed me off kind of things. No, but someone carjacks you. She's like the big guns. There are other big guns kinds of gods and goddesses, one of them being Lugh. But Lugh, so Lugh, if I can talk real quickly about Lugh, he in ancient Ireland was of the Tuatha De Danann, and he was so he was mortal at one point, and he was brought to. Um, there was a big war happening. He was a king and of a tiny piece of Ireland, as I remember. I may be bunching the story, but he came to Tara. So Tara is the place where the ancient kings would gather in Ireland, and they were going to off to war. And so they were basically interviewing people to be warriors in this war. And they were, you come up in line and they'd ask you, well, what are you a master of? And, this guy is a master of longsword and this guy is a master of bows, and, et cetera, right? So they got this good cast of great warriors. And Luke comes up in line and they say, well, what are you a master of? And he says, well, I can do swords, I can do bows, I can make the swords, I can do everything. And they say, well, we already got somebody that does swords and does bows and makes swords. And he says, but Lou says, do you have somebody who can do it all? And I said, and so they let him in. And how does Lou had a magic spear. Anyway, not to get too far down that pile, but I believe Lou is a sun god. I think he is a beautiful, um, if you read tarot, Lugh is like the king of wands. He is he is fiery, he is passionate, he's air, um he he brings me courage, strength, positivity, abundance, safety, and most of all, justice. He's very just in a kingly kind of way. And so I would approach Lugh with questions about justice, not really asking him for justice, go off and do my bidding kind of justice. But I would approach him as this king on a throne and ask him, "Is this just? What do you think, Lugh?" And he always gives me these amazing answers that are, 20,000 feet above the situation, looking at it from all sides. And so that's what I get from Lugh. He's amazing. And not to mention the daily kinds of strength, courage, positivity, all that kind of stuff. I call him every day. Anyway, we'll go into that in a later video, but I welcome your questions, feedback, experiences with deities, and I hope this was helpful. Please feel free to come join our Facebook group or our meetup. We are on meetup.com at the Temple of Avalon. We're also on Meetup under the Seattle Non-Toxic Witches group. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. We do other kinds of classes and social meetups. So every Thursday, we have a Thursday night at 7 p.m. We have an open tarot night, tarot social, I call it, where it's, sometimes we just sit and chat. Sometimes people typically come with burning problems that we all help each other in doing tarot readings to understand and kind of puzzle out, what should I do about this, or how should I how should I approach this, or what do I need to know about this, kinds of questions. So that's every Thursday night on Zoom. We also do this event every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. And I call it WitchyWoo. And we do some kind of introductory conversation. And you're always welcome to join us. No experience necessary. Next Sunday is Memorial Day weekend, but I plan to do a couple of classes over the next few Sundays. I haven't really organized which one is on which Sunday. So if you have feedback about which one you'd like and which Sundays work for you, please let me know. I want to do psychic cleansing and self-protection. I want to do a Reiki class. A huge aficionado of Reiki, and I'm a Reiki master in a number of traditions, and I'm a huge fan of that. And I want to do a class on introduction to healing, and I want to do our next meet the whoever's. Our last one was meet the fairies, and our next one is meet the mer. So the mermaids and the mermen, the merfolks of the waters. And I'm also doing public Sabbats to celebrate the seasons. And so our next one is summer solstice. We're looking at June 25th. And I want to make it a solstice where we connect with our mer energies and celebrate in the water. So the plan is it's going to be on the swim beach at Mercer Island. We're going to play in the water. We're going to eat fish. We're going to drink lemonade and do beauty things and celebrate and connect to that myrrh energy in our lives. I think myrrh brings us closer to our emotions, our loves, our beauty, our self-care rituals, and so that's kind of the plan for the next month or so. But I welcome your feedback. Thank you so much for being here. Blessed be. Please have a wonderful day, and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Bye bye.